Tonight we witness the global order in flux, as American leadership and its alliances face unprecedented strain. The return of Donald Trump and his America First doctrine has accelerated a fundamental realignment, forcing allies to choose between U.S. demands and their own sovereignty. As the U.S. turns inward, the BRICS nations, now expanded, are building an alternative system rooted in multipolar cooperation. The world is dividing into new spheres of influence, redrawing the global chessboard. The central question: how will key U.S. allies like Japan respond? Will they submit to Washington or seek new partnerships with rising powers? The choices made now will shape the map of the 21st century. The stakes have never been higher. Trump's foreign policy is transactional, treating international relationships less as enduring partnerships and more as business deals to be won or lost. He wields tariffs and economic threats as bargaining chips, using them to pressure allies like Japan and the European Union into making concessions that favor American interests, regardless of the long-term consequences for diplomatic ties. The old spirit of shared alliance, built on mutual trust and common goals, is fading. In its place, a climate of tension and unpredictability has taken root, with leaders now approaching summits with caution rather than camaraderie. Allies find themselves under mounting pressure to make costly concessions, often at the expense of their own industries, workers, and even political stability at home. The economic uncertainty ripples through factories and boardrooms, fueling protests and heated debates among policymakers. This weaponization of trade has eroded the trust that once underpinned alliances, turning negotiations into zero-sum games where every gain for one side is seen as a loss for the other. The result is reluctant compliance, simmering resentment, and a growing sense of vulnerability among America's traditional partners. In response, allies are quietly seeking alternatives, exploring new forums for cooperation, strengthening regional ties, and holding private discussions to reduce their dependence on the U.S. and protect their own interests. Increasingly, nations are questioning whether the United States remains a reliable partner, or if its unpredictable policies have made it too risky to depend on. The pressure to diversify partnerships is growing stronger, as the risks of relying solely on America become impossible to ignore. New trade agreements are being signed, and economic ties are being forged between countries that once looked to the U.S. as their primary ally. Ironically, this hardline approach may be accelerating the very decline of U.S. influence that it seeks to prevent. As America's allies look elsewhere, its leadership on the world stage is increasingly called into question. The gamble is a risky one, and its consequences could be profound, potentially reshaping the global balance of power for years to come, as new alliances form and old ones fade into history. Critics call Trump's economic strategy a protection racket, security in exchange for economic submission. Allies must buy American arms, open markets, and structure their economies to benefit the U.S., turning partnership into conditional dependence. For countries like Japan and South Korea, this means sacrificing economic sovereignty for security. The cost: relocating industries, accepting unfavorable trade terms, and subsidizing the American economy. The imbalance is breeding resentment and a quiet rebellion among allies. The relationship feels extractive, not mutually beneficial. As trust erodes, nations are seeking ways to reduce their dependency on the U.S. The short-term gains for America may come at the expense of long-term strategic stability. Allies are now questioning if the price of American protection is simply too high. As the U.S. squeezes its partners, the BRICS bloc is building a multipolar world order, expanding to include new members and new ambitions. Their vision: a system of non-interference, mutual economic advantage, and greater voice for the global South. BRICS is pioneering new trade corridors, financial institutions, and infrastructure projects that bypass Western control. Initiatives like the Belt and Road and the New Development Bank offer development without political strings. A key move, shifting away from the US dollar, insulating themselves from sanctions and American monetary policy. This de-dollarization directly challenges US financial supremacy. The BRICS framework is becoming an attractive option for countries seeking autonomy and equality. Even traditional US allies are watching and considering their options. Europe, once America's most reliable ally, is now mired in crisis, fractured by US trade pressure and internal divisions. Nationalist movements are rising, promising to put local interests above loyalty to Washington or Brussels. European industries, especially in Germany, are struggling under American protectionism and high energy costs. Many companies are relocating to the US, accelerating Europe's deindustrialization and job losses. The continent is caught between a fraying alliance with the US and the economic pull of China and BRICS. Efforts at strategic autonomy are stymied by political and economic fragmentation. Europe's predicament is a warning to other US allies. Over-reliance on a shifting patron is a dangerous game. America's aggressive global posture masks deep internal problems, chief among them, a hollowed-out industrial base. Decades of offshoring have devastated communities and left a shortage of skilled workers. Trump's push to reindustrialize faces a critical skills gap. The workforce isn't ready for a manufacturing revival. The education system's focus on university degrees over trades has created a bottleneck. While the US pressures allies to relocate industries, domestic conditions can't absorb the shift. The result: frustration, social tension, and a strategy undermined by internal weakness. America's pressure campaign is a temporary fix, not a solution. Without addressing its own fissures, US strength abroad is built on shaky ground. America's use of the dollar as a weapon is backfiring, fueling a global push for alternatives. The dollar's dominance once gave the US unrivaled financial power, but sanctions and coercion have made other nations wary. Led by BRICS, countries are trading in local currencies and building independent financial systems. This de-dollarization threatens America's ability to borrow cheaply and wield global influence. The very strategy meant to strengthen the US is accelerating its isolation. A world less dependent on the dollar is less vulnerable to American pressure. The shift is fundamental, a rebalancing of global power. The US can no longer unilaterally set the rules of the economic game. Japan, a linchpin of the US alliance in Asia, faces a painful dilemma. For decades, Japan has relied on its close partnership with the United States for both security and economic growth, cementing its role as a key player in the region. This relationship has shaped Japan's post-war identity and underpinned its prosperity. Yet now, its security and prosperity are tied to America, but Trump's economic demands are straining Japan's industries and politics. Tariffs, trade negotiations, and pressure to increase defense spending have left Japanese leaders grappling with tough choices. Many Japanese businesses worry about their future as the cost of maintaining this alliance grows heavier. The idea of Japan pivoting toward BRICS was once unthinkable, but the shifting landscape is making it plausible. As the global balance of power changes, Japan is watching the rise of new economic blocs with interest and a hint of anxiety. The BRICS nations, once seen as distant rivals, now offer potential opportunities for trade and cooperation. As BRICS rises, Japan is forced to consider diversifying its alliances. The country's leaders are quietly exploring new diplomatic channels, seeking to hedge their bets in an increasingly unpredictable world. Economic diversification could help Japan weather future storms, but it also risks alienating its traditional allies. Tokyo must weigh the benefits of US security against the economic costs and loss of sovereignty. The American security umbrella has kept Japan safe for generations, but at what price? Some argue that Japan's dependence on the US limits its ability to act independently on the world stage. Domestic pressure is mounting to defend Japan's interests, even if it means challenging Washington. Politicians, business leaders, and ordinary citizens are increasingly vocal about the need to put Japan first. Protests and public debates reflect a growing sense of urgency and frustration. While joining BRICS isn't imminent, the conversation itself signals a deepening rift. The mere fact that such an option is being discussed openly marks a significant shift in Japan's foreign policy thinking. It's a sign that old certainties are fading and new possibilities are emerging. Japan's choices will be a bellwether for the future of global alliances. The world is watching closely, knowing that Japan's decisions could influence the direction of international relations for years to come. Allies and rivals alike are recalibrating their strategies in response. Its path could reshape the architecture of the 21st century world. As Japan stands at this crossroads, the stakes could not be higher. For itself, for its allies, and for the global order as a whole. America's strategy of economic coercion, using sanctions and trade barriers to pressure rivals, was once seen as a sign of strength, but today, it's increasingly isolating the US from the rest of the world, eroding its influence rather than reinforcing it. As more countries push back against these tactics, America finds itself facing unexpected resistance, even from some of its traditional allies. The world is fracturing into two distinct camps. On one side, the US and its strained group of Western allies, grappling with internal divisions and shifting priorities. On the other, a rising BRICS-led bloc, composed of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and new members, offering a vision of a more cooperative multipolar global order. This divide is reshaping international politics and economics in real time. The global center of gravity is unmistakably shifting eastward, toward Asia and the global south. These regions are now driving global growth, innovation, and investment, while also demanding a greater voice in world affairs. Their influence is rising, and their choices are shaping the future. U.S. protectionism, meant to safeguard American jobs and industries, now risks cutting America off from these vital, dynamic regions. As trade barriers rise, opportunities for collaboration and mutual growth are slipping away, leaving American businesses and workers at a disadvantage. Around the world, there's a growing desire for a more balanced, predictable international system, one not dominated by a single superpower, but shaped by many voices. Countries are seeking stability, fairness, and respect for their sovereignty. BRICS and similar organizations are stepping up to offer a credible alternative. They're building new institutions, forging new trade routes, and creating financial systems that bypass traditional Western dominance. The old maps of power are being redrawn before our eyes. Alliances are no longer fixed, they're more fluid, transactional, and pragmatic than ever before. Countries are choosing partners based on shared interests, not just old loyalties. Understanding these dramatic shifts is essential for anyone hoping to navigate the complexities of this new world. Businesses, governments, and individuals alike must adapt to a landscape where the rules are changing fast. The evolving relationship between Japan and BRICS is just one chapter in a much larger story, a world in transition where new alliances and rivalries are constantly emerging. It's a story we must all keep watching, as it will shape our collective future.